Okay, so topic medievalism and white nationalism. All right, so there are basically three issues to address under this topic. Number one, questions about the field itself, its racial makeup, and the focus of its research. Number two, why the Middle Ages has been appropriated by the far right. And number three, how medievalists should respond to these two issues. Okay, so as Schuessler states in the New York Times article, medieval scholars joust with white nationalists and with one another. One concern is with the field itself, which is said to be overwhelmingly white, and which it probably is. More importantly, perhaps, the charge is that medievalists have created the myth that Europe in the Middle Ages was the pinnacle of civilization, historically ignoring, for instance, cultural contributions by non-European peoples. Another charge is that the academic study of the Middle Ages developed in tandem with a romantic nationalism that rooted the nation state in an idealized past populated by the Anglo-Saxons. Seams says in the article that the Middle Ages as an area of study coincides with the age of imperialism, colonization, and the slave trade. That is, the rise of the Middle Ages as a field of academic study in the late 19th and early 20th century. And what we read and study, including the text in this class, were chosen as significant during this time period. All right. In other words, as Seam states, medieval studies is sometimes seen as a, quote, fictive, hermetically sealed, and fiercely policed Western European Christian space. It is not the history of a multi-ethnic, culturally diverse, religiously pluralistic, interconnected medieval world. Okay, the second concern is the idea that the Middle Ages or medievalism has been increasingly hijacked by right-wing extremist groups. Seams says these include the mobilization of medieval symbolism by members of the alt-right and neo-Nazi groups, most notably by those rallying in Charlottesville, and in the renewal of white nationalist ideologies based on long discredited versions of ancient and medieval history. This is perhaps, I'm guessing, in reaction to immigration and multiculturalism. But these things have always been a part of the American experience. And so why it's become such a large issue now, I'm not sure. These groups presumably view the Middle Ages as a time of white supremacy, or more specifically, of white male social and cultural dominance. Seam says, quote, nationalist and racist discourses are now being fueled by a toxic nostalgia for non-existent eras of ethnic homogeneity. Fears that innate European or Western peoples are being threatened by immigration are heavily owing to false narratives of some preternatural ethnic purity rooted in medieval European soil. Anti-immigrant rhetoric evokes the barbarian invasions of a Roman Empire depicted as ludicrously monochromatic. These far-right groups, like the Nazis before them, sometimes adopt runic symbols, like the Othala or Odal rune representing the letter O, but also suggesting heritage or homeland, which I think the idea is they're trying to reclaim. And I think also the idea with the rune is that it represents a pagan, pre-Judeo-Christian past, the problem being with the Judeo part. Following, for instance, the Notre Dame fire a year and a half ago, rumors circulated among these various conspiracy chat groups that the fire had been set by Jews. We also have with these groups a fascination with the Crusades. Seam says that white nationalists invoke an imagined history of perpetual conflict between Europeans and Muslims. That imagined history, he argues, justifies contemporary hatred, and that's where the medievalism comes in. He says they construct a narrative of constant warfare between Europeans and Muslim invaders, focusing specifically on the Crusades, forgetting, of course, that it was the Europeans who were doing the invading. And we sometimes see the phrase or the slogan Deus vult, that is the old French God wills it, that was presumably chanted during the Crusades at far-right rallies. So the third concern is, what do we do with this misappropriation of the past? So first of all, education, like this class, is certainly important. Like anything, the more you learn about it, the more complex or complicated you realize it is. And a lot of the texts that we'll examine are concerned, it seems to me, with why societies fail and what role elite men play in that failure. Another suggestion is to focus more on race and racism in the Middle Ages in our research, and this has certainly been a growing field of interest in the past 10 years. And a third suggestion is to try to be more public intellectuals, that is, to try to explain for those few who might be interested, that stereotyping 1,000 years of history, assuming the Middle Ages runs from 500 to 1500, can be nothing but distorted and inaccurate. And so part of what we're trying to do in this class, right, is to sort of explore these distortions, right, and to explore how modern agendas are often projected onto the past. All right, thanks for listening.